from the shop. And this is going to do some Q&A session because I ain't done one of them before. And I thought, I'll do one. We'll see what happens. This may end terribly. It may go well. If it goes well, we'll do more of them. But I came down to the shop today. I'm going to have me a Fuente while we're chatting. I got me a Chateau Fuente here. There's going to be a lot of smoke in the screen, so if smoke bothers you, you might not want to watch. Handiest thing since sliced bread in a machine shop. There's Grant. How you doing? All right, this one's for you, Grant. But yeah, we use these little torches to do all sorts of crap. Heat shrink tubing, soften like PVC to bend it. Light the bigger torches, like the big propane. Well, it's the little cylinder propane. They're kind of a pain to light. This thing strikes them right off. Of course, lighting our cigars, you know. But yeah, that has been, and it was like a cheap one from Amazon. Best thing since sliced bread. Works like a dream. You dial how big you want the flame, push it, and it's got a little electric igniter. Works great. But I thought I'd do a Q&A session today and chat with you guys a little while. I was filming right over in that corner is where I set up to do my lens video. I got this guy out today, the little Jupiter 8 that I was going to take apart and film. I started filming. I want to show you something. This lens is two assemblies screwed together. It's pretty interesting. All right, set down the cigar for a second. I went to take it apart. Normally, you screw out the front element, or then you screw off the rear one, you know, and they kind of come apart like that. Well, this one, I went to pop the front element loose, and as you'll notice, it's spinning. Well, it unscrewed to a certain point, and it come in half. And what you have is a focus helicoid. That sounded important. It's laying right there. I think it's a breaching ring to set minimum focus distance. And then you have the aperture and the lens group. And it's two separate parts. But yeah, like you buy those aftermarket focus helicoids, that's all this half of it is. Let me grab that ring. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just a breaching washer to, I ain't worried about it being dusty because I'm going to clean the whole thing before I put it back together. But I think that sets minimum focus distance by gauging the lens group away from the camera. But yeah, but I've run into a problem. And I've had to stop production of the video until I can get a special set of screwdrivers that will allow me to pull these little tiny screws out. 'Cause it's got a bunch of little microscopic screws in it. So, but yeah, I thought that's pretty ingenious. They just took the lens group and screwed it into a focus helicoid, and it's that simple. Then it screws onto the camera. Now, I'll need a little feedback from you guys as to whether or not the stream is choppy and the audio's cutting out, things like that, because I have no way of knowing. I'm down in the machine shop. I have pretty much the best bandwidth I can get here. So if it's working good, then we'll carry on, but I don't know. So you got it. Looks good. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, I went to Chattanooga. Told you, greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't light the whole cigar well. There we go. But I've been doing a good bit of street photography lately, and I'm working on a photo book project, and I've about got the book done. I'm down to wanting a couple of photos to kind of finish the book with, as you would say. And I got one of them yesterday or the day before, and I got another one this morning that's real strong. So I'm almost done with my book. See what James is saying. 50 years ago, I had a Canon interchangeable lens camera that was built along those lines. You bought enough elements to screw in, audio gets distorted whether or not the stogie is in or out. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if that's because I'm mumbling my voice when I talk with the cigar in my mouth. Huh. That's good to know. But it may need a larger audio stream, like more volume to get the modulation, to get the stream to work right. But I never seen one of those cameras that you would change out these groups. As far as I know, this is an assembly. You buy like this, and you don't change out these. Maybe you do. I don't think you do though, because it's got the aperture markings match the aperture on the lens. Which all you have to do is make all your lenses the same aperture size, minimum aperture, and that would translate. But so I really can't say that. Minimum focus is 1 meter on this lens, 3 feet. But yeah, this little lens has just got issues with the. It's got fungus in it, and that's one of the reasons I got it, because I got it really cheap because it had a little fungus in the corners. Actually, through the center, don't look too bad. It would probably take perfectly acceptable photos. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really. It's around the edges. It's a little bit grungy, but just around the edges. Good one, James. Yeah. Not many places you can get away with doing this, but if you own the building, anything goes. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of street and working on my book, and I've been editing through my Costa Rica photos, and I finally got I got it down to, I think, 49 wildlife images, and I've built one video with the first 20, and I'm working on the second video with the next 29 in it. Episode 2 will have 29 images, and I'm doing voiceover showing the images and talking a little about them, like where I found the creature and what the locals call it or what have you. And I've researched as many of the creatures as I could to give you like the accurate names. One or two of them I can't find. There's like so many species of birds that inhabit Costa Rica that unless you know, what is it, I call it the model, like a warbler or a flycatcher or like a nuthatch or shrike or whatever. If you don't already know it's in one of those groups, good luck, because there's literally thousands of them. And I've got one that I don't know. I looked and looked and looked and looked for colors, stature, because it's a little tiny songbird, but I could not find it anywhere. It's in the video, but the second video, well, I'm going to hopefully run them one, then the next is the way I plan to do it. But I've been working on getting this video put together for quite some time. I had several thousand photos to wade through, and to weed it down to 49 images was not easy. I finally got there, but it took a while. Now, there's a lot of repeat photos, and like I got, like photos of birds that were way off, and you get this kind of like, they're little specks in the frame, they're really not that great an image. So I saved them for the memories for like our personal photo album that I'll put together with them. Because I've got like scarlet macaws, but the scarlet macaws were way off. I never saw them up close to where I could get a decent photo. Maybe later, if we go back, I'll get scarlet macaws, but I saw them, but I never got a photo. And it was like that with several birds. The parakeets were really hard to photograph. They didn't sit still very much. They hopped around a lot. They were moving. So it was tough to get a photo of a parakeet. I got several different varieties of parrots and toucans. I got 2 or 3 varieties of toucans. Come to find out, there's 4 or 5 varieties of toucans. The smaller ones are called Aracaris or Aracari or something to that effect. I think it's Aracari. Um, I got a I got one of them. Then I got the Keel Build, the big one, looks like a Fruit Loop toucan. I got one of them too. Here we go. Here's a good question. Come on. Michael Henson asks, what is the better lens and have you used any of them? The Sigma 150 to 600 or the Tamron 150 to 600, as I want to get into wildlife photography. Okay. I have seen pictures captured with the Tamron. Aaron of Aaron's Life has the 150 to 600 Tamron. The photos are stunning. It takes amazing images. He's a real big Tamron lens user. He's got a bunch of Tamron glass, and it all works really well for him. He uses it on a Nikon D850 with amazing results. I had the 150 to 500, the one before the 600 millimeter came out, the Sigma. My bad. I had the Sigma. I think it was a 150 to 500, and I couldn't get sharp photos with it. I don't know if it was me or if it was the application, but I came home from Hawaii and all of my photos were soft. They were just blurry. And I just couldn't get like results I was wanting out of that lens. So I sold that lens and I bought the Nikon 200 to 500 Super Zoom, the F5.6 Super Zoom, and it produced razor sharp photos and worked amazingly well. It doesn't have quite the range, but man, does it perform for what you pay for it. So if I was recommending the lenses, I would recommend the Tamron, then the Nikon, and then the Sigma in that order, if it were me. I picked the 2 to 500 because it had such rave reviews because I got it not long after it came out. I had bought my Sigma about 6 months before Nikon announced the 2 to 500 Super Zoom, and then couldn't get any good results out of it. And I honestly think I called Roberts and negotiated the trade with them. And I traded that Sigma. I'm pretty sure I traded the Sigma. No. Wasn't the Sigma. I had the 400 millimeter f2.8 AIS, the old manual focus 400 millimeter f2.8 lens, the huge behemoth. It comes in a transit chest. And I never could get a picture out of that thing to look like anything. I tried and tried and tried. And man, the guys in the old days shooting them big telephoto lenses, they had skills because I just could not get that thing to take a good photo. But I traded it to Roberts for the 2 to 500. That's what I did. And then I don't remember the difference, but I think I gave them a little bit of extra money. But I sold that Tamron or Sigma. I sold my Sigma because I just didn't have no luck with it. But Aaron does. He takes very good photos with that Tamron lens. You're welcome. The 24 to 70 is a great general purpose lens, but Roberts is happy to do trade rounds. They don't have a problem with it at all, especially if they have the lens you're looking for. And they let me trade a used vintage lens towards the price of a brand new one. It didn't, it wasn't like you had to trade used for used or something. Yeah, they were willing to take it in as payment down, if you want to call it that, on a brand new lens. I thought that's really good of them. But yeah. I'll sit here and run my mouse along. My cigar went out. So, what else you guys got for me? That's a good question, by the way, Michael. Thank you. Knock off his ashes so I can relight this thing. Did y'all see my recent upload of the wetland just outside of Gainesville? It came live today. I'm trying to get back down to Florida. Woo, that light shining on that smoke right there, because there's a fluorescent light right here. Man, it makes that thing light up something crazy. Cigar of the day, a Fuente Chateau Fuente, with a sun-grown wrapper. That is my favorite cigar. I don't know if it's any better than anything else, but that's the one I like the best. They're kind of mild. There's not too much smoke or cigar to smoke because I can't really handle really strong cigars. But this one is good to me. I've always liked the Chateau Fuentes. The double Chateaus are basically the same cigar, but just longer. And I like them too, but they take so long to smoke. I just like these better. This is just perfect for me. This is like an after dinner mint almost. But yeah, here James says, depending on whether you use a tripod or not, I have the older 300 millimeter F4 AFS non-VR, and it does a beautiful job on a tripod. I personally can't handhold it. Whew. So now the AFS is autofocus, isn't it? It's screw drive autofocus, right? Because the one I had wasn't. It was just manual. It didn't have stabilization or anything. It took the little filter trays. I don't remember if it had any filters. It had a tray with, I think, has a clear one in it. I don't remember exactly what was in it. But yeah. But the 2 to 500 is an excellent super zoom if you're looking to get into wildlife photography and you're going to shoot Nikon. Now, if you're going to shoot Canon, I don't know what Canon offers. And if they don't really have anything in that realm, I'd say get that Tamron, because everything I've seen of Aaron's has been stellar photographs. He takes beautiful photos with his Tamron lenses. Silent wave autofocus. It's just a big honker. Nice. So it's did it come after the screw drive lenses? Because they're just AF, and then AFD for the distance deal, but they're just, I'm thinking the AF series was the screw drive, so AFS was the new electric motor in the lens focus system. Because I think my 70-200 is like that one. Daggone it. I can't keep it lit. There we go. But I have the 2 to 500, and I haven't gotten it out since I bought that 500 millimeter phase Fresnel, mainly because when I'm shooting wildlife, I've got that 500 racked all the way out anyway. I rarely pull it back for, especially for birds, because birds are small anyway, and you can't normally get very close to them, so you're normally maxed out regardless. So I normally just run that 500 phase Fresnel. That's what I took to Costa Rica. I literally backpacked my whole camera kit fit in a small backpack by Think Tank Photo. It's called the Retrospective 15L. It's a 15-liter pack. And I took a Z6, the 500 millimeter, the 24-70 Z lens. I took a 50 mil just to have one as an f1.4 50 mil. But I didn't use it but like one time. So if I was to go back, I wouldn't even take it. I'd take the 500, the 24-70, the Z6, and I took the Z50 with the little 10 to 30 millimeter. I've got that little, it's the little plastic mount, 10 to 30 millimeter, or 10 to 20 millimeter. It's a little variable aperture DX lens, but that thing takes amazing photos. If you want to do landscape, it's a beautiful landscape wide angle lens. And it works on, I put it on the Z6 a time or two. I mean, I ran it on both cameras. You know, it just puts the Z6 in DX mode when you mount a DX lens to it. But it worked great with the F to Z deal. That was all I took. And I have plenty of gear. And I interchanged the lenses between the cameras freely. I shot a bunch of wildlife with the Z50, the F to Z, and that 500 phase Fresnel, and got amazing results. I mean, it's like 21 megapixels, or just a little under that, like 20.9 or something. And since it's crop sensor, that's a pretty compact pixel density. Let's see what we got here. Peter Nagy's asking, all right, happy, joy, joy. I just come home, perfect timing. 3 more minutes and the fire sprinkler is on. I hope not. I don't need that link soaked down in water. Yes. James says, yes, very quick and quiet, but the optics are without VR and about 2.5 pounds and a foot long. On a tripod, it will impress you. Well, I guess that would make it a good monopod lens. Wow. That's awesome. I've never looked at that lens. I bet it's pretty reasonable nowadays. You can probably get them on eBay fairly reasonable. But yeah, that trip to Costa Rica, that was all I took because I got to really, I set all of my gear out on the bed, and I had the pack, and I had all kinds of stuff. When I started packing, I literally put all the stuff that I thought I would take with me on the bed. And then I started looking at, like, I was taking the 2 to 500, the D810, the Z6, the 500 phase Fresnel, and I thought, which one really works better? Of course, you have more versatility with the 2 to 500, but the optical performance of the 500 PF was a little better. I thought, well, if I get better optical performance, then I'm not going to have too many scenarios where I'm going to want 200 millimeters over the optical performance of the 500. I'm almost certain I'm going to shoot more at 500. So I set that aside. And then I had the 2 camera bodies, and I thought, okay, I'm taking the Z50 kindly to shoot video, but also as a backup camera body already. Do I really need 3 camera bodies? No. But if I'm going to just take 2, I want them to kind of be compatible. So the Z50 and the Z6 have compatible mounts. The D810 doesn't. It does and it doesn't. Since I was taking a Z-mount lens, I thought I'd best just go ahead and take the 2 Z-mount bodies. So I set it aside. Well, that immediately moved all of its batteries, because I got Gen 1 batteries for it. They're ENL15s, A's for it. And I just set all that aside. The charger for it and everything suddenly got out of the picture. And the 70 to 200, I thought, will I really use this much? And my answer was, well, for vacation photography, no. Because when you're taking pictures of like sightseeing stuff in towns and what have you, you're shooting it at that 24 to 70 range, mainly, around 35 to 50 mils, what you're really going to use. So I would have that thing backed all the way down to 70 most of the time. And if that's the case, I could just use the 24 to 70. So I set it aside. And I was I got brutal with the weeding and literally got it down to what I could carry on my back through the airport. And that was the goal, was to get it into a bag small enough I didn't have to check anything. ADVR says, I don't know a lot about telephoto. The longest lens I've ever had is the 18 to 200, and it was so cool on the D3300. I have the 18 to 200 VR2. I think it's the VR2. It's a great little lens. I haven't used it in ages. Excuse me. But I have that lens I kept it. I got it when I got my D7000. The first lens I bought for my D7000 was the 35 f1.8, and I shot with it for a long time. And then the next lens I bought was the 18 to 200, and used it for an even longer time. And I finally got the 70 to 200 f2.8 because I wanted bigger glass that would gather more light indoors, because that 18 to 200 is a smaller aperture. It's like f4.5 to f5.6 or something like that. And that was making me run real high ISOs on that D7000, and it was kind of struggling. So I got that 70 to 200 because I was starting to shoot photos indoors at the rock climbing gyms of my daughter when she would compete, and I just wanted the faster glass. So I got that lens for that. And then I got the D810, which being full frame, and that 70 to 200, man, that ruled. That was all I took to the rock climbing comps. I left the camera bag in the car and just took a handful of batteries and that camera and lens combo, and didn't bother carrying anything else. It just worked. Let's see. James Oliver says, bought it for about $700. Wow. I'm trying to get good on a monopod, and one grandson's used baseball. Results are okay so far. The other grandson plays football, and there's no way. That's too dynamic of a game to try and track with that thing, I bet. Yeah. Now you could probably, I don't know, you almost need a ring mount like they mount on the top of the Humvees for the 50 cal. so that you can pivot the camera. That way you could set with the ring and you could track along the ring with the lens. I wonder if anybody makes that. I haven't looked. I've never noticed. This thing will not stay lit. You can tell it's real cigar leaves because they won't. There we go. That's helping along. But yeah, the travel kits that I've traveled with. Wow, that is a big stogie. There you go. It's Arturo Fuente. This is a Chateau Fuente. Carmen Tavernera. Let me see. Am I saying that right? Pour some gas on it a lot. Taverna. How you doing, Carmen? Thank you for checking in. Yes, I started out talking about this little guy, my little Jupiter 8. I started out today shooting the video of dismantling this lens. You notice it's remantled. It's because I got to get some more tools. I don't have all the tools I need. This lens is two assemblies stuck together. You have a focus helicoid, and then you have the lens group that screws into it as a separate module. That's how this lens is made. It's actually, basically, they just put it together so that you could have, I guess that's grease. There's a smudge down inside here. But they just took a focus helicoid, dropped the lens group in, and screwed it together. Simple. But it's got some little bitty tiny screws holding parts of this lens together, and I don't have the small enough screwdriver. I gotta get the little jeweler screwdrivers to finish dismantling it. So I'll get them ordered, and then I can actually move forward with this. It really doesn't, honestly, need to be dismantled. It's got a little fungus, but it's all in the perimeters. It's not in the center at all. So it would take perfectly acceptable photos, honestly. You might see a little bit of weirdness in the bokeh, but honestly, the lens is pretty clean. Like I said, you got to get it at the right angle, but you can see it right around the edges. But yeah, I can't get the front to screw out, so I'm almost convinced that it comes apart from the rear. This won't budge, and normally you can unscrew this little plane. I've got the little, what do you call them? Those rubber. I can move it, but it binds on something. It's hitting. It shouldn't do that. It should turn. And it ain't bent. Yeah. I don't know what's causing it. So I got to go in from the back, and I got to get wrenches or screwdrivers. That's why like I said, I started filming today and had to stop. But yeah, I went to screw the front element off, and the whole lens group screwed out of the focus helicoid. Let's see what we got here. James says, you're a machinist, David. We'll be waiting to see that ring-mounted camera pod. I might just make one. I can roll a ring pretty easy in the lathe. It ain't hard to do. Just to get a concentric ring. We could cut it out of something else. All we need it. We can make it out of, it needs to be pretty big. It probably needs to be at least 5 feet in diameter. At least the arc, the front arc needs to be a 30-inch radius. So yeah, we could do that. We roll it pretty easy. There's a couple of ways to make a ring, and I don't have a bending like a radius gauge. But you can make them like out of plywood, and then literally take like a piece of aluminum conduit and fill it up with sand, heat it up, and it kind of weakens the aluminum tubing, and then you can just bend it around a plywood form, and then pour the sand back out of it. They used to make motorcycle chassis that way, bend those exotic shapes into the frame, and they would do it with 4140 alloy steel tubing for them, but they'd fill them up with sand and then heat them up to soften the steel, and then they could bend it around a wooden form, and it won't collapse the tubing if it's full of sand. So that was an old school trick for making bizarre shaped bends. But yeah, there's ways of bending it without having to buy a big roll bender or whatever. But yeah, we're to do that. They make pretty heavy hitter tripods that would hold that weight. If you made out of aluminum, it wouldn't be too bad heavy. I can think of ways that I would see that it would make sense to bend it out of like even angle iron, because then you could put trolley wheels on the back and on the front and on the bottom edge so that that mount stays on it and rides on a car and it won't try to roll around it. You know, otherwise you're going to mount that piece of tubing to a piece of flat bar with screws or something so that it'll have a wheel in the front that will gauge it so it won't try to roll backwards or flip over that ring. You know, you'd have to come up with a way of keeping it from just spinning around the tube. But yeah, now you got me thinking. I wonder how many people would want one of them to set in a blind with so they can mount their 700 millimeter f4 and just track it around. The only person I know that could even come up with a 700 millimeter f4 would be Phil. Since he's already got the 500, it's not a big upgrade to trade in, trade up, you know. But then again, you could get those Canon ones, and they're what, f11, and they got a 1,000 millimeter monster. It's trying. It's actually, the humidity's just about perfect in it. I struggle to keep my humidor at the right temperature or the right humidity level. Our house having central heat and air will dry it out really quickly, so I'm constantly monitoring the humidity. I finally got it. It seems to be about right. It's not swelling or anything. They'll swell up and bust on you if you don't. But, neck's sore. So, have you guys got any questions that I haven't addressed yet about anything about me? That's what this kind of was a Q&A session for you guys to ask me questions. I didn't do it right. I should have put out a call for questions ahead of time, and then I could have just read the questions in the stream, but I'm not that smart. I'm not Dan Milner. Dan Milner is so popular, he just says, hey, I'll do a Q&A if you'll send me questions, and bam, he has a big list of questions to go through. But yeah, that trip to Costa Rica was a pretty interesting trip for me. I was pure knock on the whole thing, and I'm kind of glad I did. Even though I liked my little Leica CL, I didn't take it because I wanted the compatibility with the camera bodies, and it wouldn't be compatible with anything. Had I taken it, you know, it would have just been this little thing all its own. I'd have had to carry all the support gear just for it, and it just didn't make sense. So that's why it was a Nikon adventure, was because all that gear worked together. Nikon rules. It did on that trip. I got to give it credit. I got beautiful photos. I shared a few on here and there. I got a bunch on my website. If y'all go to my website and go to I got like 3 little galleries on there, and one of them I think says wildlife now. I'm pretty sure it says wildlife. And they're kind of sprinkled through there, but you can tell what's in Costa Rica because it's like tropical creatures. And there's monkeys and kingfishers and all sorts of stuff that, well, there's kingfishers here, and it's probably the same kingfishers and they just migrate. But they were down there everywhere. We went down that stream, dude, and I don't know how many of them kingfishers we saw. They were literally everywhere. And they're very timid birds. The kingfisher's a cool bird. I really like them because it's like a little tiny bird with a huge spiked beak, you know, and they dive in the water and catch the fish. And eagle hitting the water pick was cool this morning. Yes, thank you, Phil. Good point. That was the first time I had ever seen a raptor catching fish in the water. And that was amazing to even see it. and I got lucky. I was just walking around, and I had no like plan. I was just walking the loop in that wetland, and just happened to look up and saw this bird up there doing these weird acrobatic maneuvers, and I was like, "Oh, that's bizarre." So I had already switched to group area focus, and I just threw it up there and focused on it, and I saw through the lens that it was an eagle. And then at about that time, I'm looking through the camera viewfinder. It turns and it starts down, and I just decided to let's just see where it goes. And it come in and it looked like it was approaching for landing at an airport. And it come down low across the water, and that's when I started snapping frames. And unfortunately, right after it hit the water with its talons and come out with the fish, the camera, I wasn't able to track the bird well enough, and the camera focused on the background about 30, 40 feet behind the bird. So immediately the bird went out of focus. The moment it come out of the water, all them photos were blurry. It was just the reeds were in focus. And that's why I shared the one of it right before its feet went in the water. That was the last in focus image. Thank you. Thank you a lot, Phil. Peter Nagy says he's using an old Manfrotto video head, probably some TV station surplus. It's perfect for my 600 millimeter f4. That thing has to be enormous. You know, those big Fuji television box lenses, them things weigh, 30, 40 pounds. They're huge lenses, which, when you see what's going on inside that thing, and you understand all the mechanism and motors and stuff that are in there, because it can zoom to ridiculous amounts of zoom on those box lenses. I looked them things up. That's why they're like $250,000. They have the capacity that they're, what do they call it when the focus doesn't shift through the zoom range, it stays on focus as it zooms. They got a name for that. The word, I don't remember what it is, but I can't remember the word now. But yeah, so that they can hit a little electric switch and it zooms in, and it doesn't lose focus while it's zooming. It's still on the same focus because it's mechanically adjusted for it. But those things are incredible, and they're freakishly heavy. But yeah, that would make an excellent mount for a big glass lens like that. The truth says I must stop buying tripods. No, you don't have to stop buying tripods. I think it's a rule. Every time me and Aaron meet up and go shoot photos in the Smokies or whatever, we've got one of the two of us has a new tripod. It's a rule. You just got to buy a new one. He's got some of these new ones that are made, I want to say they're Chinese manufacturers. They're not Manfrotto. I want to say they're MePhoto. I'm pretty sure they're MePhoto. He's not on the stream today because he's driving right now, but I've been chatting with him a little earlier today. But but he's got them with the big bowl mount deal, and you can, like, if you set the tripod and the tripod's a little out of level, you can loosen this ball and move the ball till the base ball socket's dead level, and then you can shoot panos on like uneven terrain without trying to level the tripod legs as much. So if your tripod legs are a little out, you just level that bowl. It's got a bubble level right on it. Get it dead level, and then you set your camera on that deal. It's pretty smooth. And then he's got the same little widget that Thomas Heaton uses now. I don't remember if he's using the tripod that Thomas is using, but he's using that little special head that pivots back and forth. It's not a ball head. It's a pivot deal. That thing's nice. It's got that dampening. It's got a screw tensioner on one side and like a dampened brake on the other. So if you loosen it up, the camera don't just thump over. It goes real slow. It's kind of gives you the idea that it might be video centric because all that video stuff is dampened. Because up till he got this stuff, he was using video tripods for some of his work. Because with his big glass and all, the video tripods have they have the oil dampened controls, and you don't get as much camera shake. But I've got a little aluminum It's a, well, it's in a video or two. It's a little orange. It's an Amazon tripod. I don't remember exactly the make and model, but it's a pretty good little ball head tripod. It's got a function to level the head on it, and it gets pretty close. I noticed the other day I did a pano. Yeah, shout out to Phil Thatch Photography. He's in here. Phil is the king of panos. If y'all haven't figured that out yet, you need to go to his channel. It won't take you long to find a pano video. If you're wanting to learn how to do pano photography, go watch Phil's videos because he's got plenty of them and he's good at panos. I don't know what his magic is. I don't know how he does it, but he gets beautiful panoramas every time he does one. He just has the eye for it. And I finally found a pano subject the other day and made a video about it. But yeah, Phil's really good at panos. So like I said, if you want to do them and do multi-stitch photo panos, you need to go watch Phil's videos on it. He's got some he did some at Disney World that were, Disney should be paying him for those photos. I'm serious. They're incredible photos. And then he did some in downtown Chattanooga the other day. They were incredible photos. Oh, dude, you're welcome. Those photos are amazing. Like I said, Disney should be paying you for them of that resort you was doing down last fall when y'all guys were down there. Them was some incredible panoramas, especially that one with the sunset in it that had the blue and the orange sky in one frame. That was gorgeous. Yeah. Peter Nagy says he found that tripod at the Goodwill store for 20 bucks. Oh, crap. I hit the wrong button. My camera mount is literally a filing cabinet with a bottle of butane that you fill up this torch with, and the phone's leaning up against that bottle of butane. And so when I bumped it, the whole thing started to fall down. Let's see here. You got it at the Goodwill store for 20 bucks, 50 cents a pound. Man, every time I go to the Goodwill, they've got some kind of like late 80s Canon camera with a 50 mil on it that looks like someone dunked in axle differential lube to lube the iris with and then drug it down the road behind a car when they went home from dipping it. And it's just, and all the seals are falling out. It's just like terrible film for, I'm all about some vintage lenses. I always go look. But it's like all of them here lately in Chattanooga have been just trash. It's like, you don't even want them for parts. Hey, Ray. How you doing? Yes. Yeah, that's what, I've been using this to light my cigar. Works great. We use it in the shop for all sorts of projects. Well, like I was saying earlier, we use it to like soften PVC pipe, to bend PVC pipe for different things, for coolant routing or something, or to like heat shrink tubing, or loosen stuck bolts, small stuck screws. You don't want a big torch, but you still want the screw to get hot. That thing works beautiful for that. And we light our cigars with it. It lights more cigars than most of the other stuff. Yeah, you guys, I have a huge Xikar. It's got some fuel in it. You can see it's trying to light. It won't stay lit. This Xikar lighter worked great for about 2 weeks, and then it's just it's got issues. See, and it's got these 2 trap doors. See how they open? If one doesn't open all the way, it'll light. So basically, if you choke it, it'll run, is what that's telling me. Right now, the doors work really well. They say you can send them back to Xikar and they'll fix them, but this thing has never worked right after about 2 weeks. And they ain't no telling what that lighter cost. It was a promo from Lone Star Armory. They sent it to us years ago. And yeah, we've piddled with it. If you can blow it out with an air hose, and it'll work for about 2 lights. So there's something going on in there with it. The fuel system is jacked up or something. But yeah, we have a real torch. But this thing works better. And it's from Amazon, and it's like $10 or something. It wasn't much. It was really cheap. Yeah, we did all that. Yeah, bleed the air out. Yeah. You mean out of this valve? Yeah, we bleed them down before we recharge them and everything. Yeah, we did that too. Because we emailed Zycar, and that was the first thing they said to do. They said to try that. That was back in the day. What kind of smoke are you having, cigar? What kind of cigar are you having, Ray? My hands, there it goes. But seriously, maybe the person. Hey, Heather, how you doing? Thank you for joining in. Somebody was asking at the beginning of the stream, Ray, if they would prefer the Tamron, the Sigma, or, well, they didn't actually give me the option of choosing a Rocky Patel. Nice, a 1990. I may have a few Rocky Patels in the humidor. Dude, those are nice. I like Rocky Patel cigars. I met him. He was in Chattanooga. The picture's on my phone, actually. 2 years ago, I guess. Maybe. He came to Burns Tobacco maybe 3. It was before the coronavirus at all. So, yeah, but he came to the Burns Tobacco out in Shallowford and did a meet and greet. And then was giving people deals on cigars. If you bought like 5 cigars, he would go over to the cash register, ring them up, and take a big discount and sell them to you. Like basically, you got 2 for the price of 1. It was cool. Huh. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna jump back. My people are still in finance office. Uh-oh. So he can't leave yet. All right, I got to be careful. I can't push on the camera. But the person was asking if they were to get a Super Zoom, either the 150 to 500 Tamron or the 150 to 500 Sigma, which would I choose? And I had the 150 or 150 600. My bad, 600. If I had the 150 to 500 Tam or Sigma, I got to slow down here. I'm getting in a big hurry. And I couldn't get it to give me sharp images. And I traded for the 2 to 500 Nikon and got great results. And then Aaron's using a Tamron 150 to 600, and he gets stellar photos with his D850. I was wondering if you happen to get the same results with yours, because you use a lot of Tamron glass and seem to get amazing photos with it. So you'd be a good subject matter expert to ask for that. Hey, I do have water. I was working on this machine. Let me just get something to show you what happened yesterday. And we absolutely have no idea how this happened. This little piece goes inside of that machine, basically down here, okay? And what this is a catch can. When it gets done making a part in this machine, it'll make a whole part to completion. Let's say this, it made these at one point, okay? It machines the whole thing from bar stock, and then when it gets done machining the second half of it in the sub spindle, this thing would come up and it would kick these parts into it, and then it would kick them down to a little exit conveyor right out of camera shot right there. And but it rides when it's out of use. It's down at the bottom, and it just kind of runs along the chassis out of the way. You can see there's a huge dent in it right here. So it got caught on something yesterday and literally broke the thing off. Guess how much that crap's going to cost to fix? Because I don't know yet. I haven't called Doosan to find out, but we don't know why. It just snapped it off. The guy that was running it come got me, and he was like, it was running apart. Went to do the pull off and made this loud noise. We looked and looked, and there's a big dent in the frame, but there's nothing, like, there's no parts missing that would have fell off and got hung, but it got caught on something. It snapped it off clean. So that's the kind of stuff you get to play with. So we moved the broken pieces. The machine will work technically without it. It just kind of makes it to where it's a little more hands-on-ish. It's not fully automated without that. So until we get that fixed, somebody will have to go in there and take that finished part out by hand instead, is what the difference is. But yeah, that was just bizarre. That's something we haven't never had happen before. Let's see what we got. I got to back up a little bit. There's a lot going on here. Savante is in. How you doing? Thank you for stopping by. Let's see here. Ray had trouble out of his 2-500. Wow, that's odd. Ray said he's heard the sport versions of the Sigma and Tamrons are better. So if you're still here, I would have to go back to the beginning of the comments to dig that out to see. But if the person that asked me that earlier is still here, that's a good point. Ray is a good subject matter expert. The truth says I was going to be a YouTube star, but realized every time I made a video, I'd lose a subscriber. So I'll live vicariously through others. Oh. Well, what's a guy to do, you know? Ray says, I only had the regular, but love my Sigma 120 to 300. And they need to check the micro adjustment on the 2-500 because it was off. Interesting. Heather Boyd says, if using Z-body cameras, need to keep compatibility in mind. And it looks like she was saying something like only, and then she stopped her statement. Oh, only G2 lenses will function with the F to Z. That's where she was finishing up. Ray says get the 2-500 because it has bigger aperture, has constant aperture, and you get more light. It's good to know, Heather, that the G2 Tamrons are the ones that'll talk to the F to Z. That's good information. Ray says, even my older Sigma 120 to 300 2.8 won't work with the F to Z. Ooh. We tried it on Heather's camera. Interesting. Martin, how you doing? Finally caught a bit of your live stream. I've seen this building before. It's where the A-Team built a tank out of bits and pieces. Yeah, that was over there. We like to never got them guys out of the way. I done my stream from down here. There we go. Got it going again. Done my stream from down here since I was working on this. I got this Jupiter 8 lens, and I was starting to film. The camera still's kind of set up over there, but I was starting to film the teardown video, and I need these little jeweler screwdrivers to pull some of the parts off with. Well, actually, I can show you. The Jupiter 8 is nothing more than a vintage fixed focal length lens. That's the lens group with a focus helicoid screwed on it. That's all it is. And then, but right here is a little band that's screwed onto the exterior threads, and it has a little tiny screw. I can't even get the camera to pick up. You see that little speck? That's a screw. And that's a set screw to keep that ring from working loose. So I got to take that screw out to back that ring off to be able to pull this this aperture mechanism. This is the aperture. You can see. The aperture blades got oil on them, so I got to take them out and clean the oil off of them. But yeah, I need some little tiny jeweler screwdrivers to finish this video, so I got to order them. I'm going to order them from Amazon. They'll be here in a couple of days, and then I'll finish filming. But I may just refilm the whole thing. I don't know. With that big stutter in the middle of the video, it depends. I don't know. Depends on how I feel. Let's see what we got here. I've seen some comments flying by. Adrian asked, this question isn't related. Doesn't matter. I'm open to about any question today. Let's see. But I'm looking forward to get some photography lighting. What would you recommend me? In studio, where you plug it in the wall, or battery powered where you can take it out to like the beach or to remote locations to like Urban Decay old warehouses that don't have power in them? Because if I was going to the warehouses, I'd have at least a speed light or two, and I'd have, honestly, those Yongnuos work pretty good for a while, and they're pretty cheap. Yeah, like 50, 60 bucks for a Yongnuo 560 whatever version, and they're pretty competent lights. I did a lot of product photography with Yongnuo speed lights. I'd have a couple of those, and then I'd get at least one of those AD200 Pros. It's a kind of pricey light. You can get the AD200 now secondhand, probably a lot cheaper because the Pro come out and kind of superseded it. And the AD200 is a great light. And it's bigger than a speed light. It's kind of in between a speed light and a studio module. It really isn't a speed light, but it works really, really well. It's like 4 or 5 times more powerful than a speed light. It's got a bunch more, whether the guide number's a lot higher, however you measure it, in watt seconds or whatever, but it's a lot more light. And it's kind of pricey though. That's the problem with the AD200 Pro, is it was a little bit of expensive light, but I use mine regularly. Whenever I do thumbnails for lens views and you see them on that wooden table and it's the lens and maybe some stuff behind it, I'm hand holding that AD200 Pro with a softbox attached with the Leica CL manually focused on that lens, and I'm hot shoe mounted with that thing. I think that Ray, was the guy that told me to get this little module that goes from a hot shoe mount to a sync cable. And then I just run it around and sync cable it straight in. I don't even have it wireless connected. It's just wired. And I just hold it and get the light like I want and fire the shutter. And that's how I take those thumbnails. But that thing works beautifully. And if you get those Yongnuos, they'll fire as master slave mode. So they'll detect that AD200's fired and they'll fire on their own. So you don't even really have to radio control them. If you'll sync cable to one of them, the rest of them will sympathetic fire. So you can do fill light, backlighting, hair light, all that jazz, all sympathetic light off of master slave setups. Okay. My first light modifier was a shoot-through umbrella, and I would say get one of those. It has a lot of spill, so if your background is close to your subject, it's going to light up your background. You know, the only way you can kind of control that is to get one of those grid things that hangs on the front of a softbox. But dude, you can take some stunning photos with just a cheap shoot-through umbrella and a good speed light that's got some power, a good Nikon, like an SB700 and SB800. I got an SB700 now that I've had for a long time. That would do you well with a shoot-through umbrella. I've done really cool photos with them. It doesn't have enough juice to overpower the sun. So if you want to use the sun to like backlight somebody, you can't really fill in the front well with a speed light. It can do it at full power, but it looks kind of weird. So I would recommend, if you're going to do like that kind of photography, get something at least like the AD200 Pro. But if you're shooting where you can plug in a wall socket, you can get some nice studio strobes pretty cheap. And a lot of times, you can get them from Amazon. You get the cheap ones. I've bought 2 or 3 of them over the years, and they're all still working. Even the model lights still work on them. Let's see. Somebody asked me what I'm smoking. Let's see, who was it? Brand Cigar, Woody Mallory. How you doing? This is a Fuente, Chateau Fuente. Somebody just commented on a video. Neville Cole, how you doing? Hello, Neville. Neville's from the United Kingdom. I'm not sure. I've learned enough about the UK to know that there's multiple sections, and some of the people don't like to be called, British if they're from Scotland. So, until I figure out what part they're from, they're just from the UK. I got to make sure I don't step on somebody's toes there. Savannah uses all radio, all high-speed sync, and zero issues. Yeah. I used to use radio triggers. I got some radio triggers. I don't remember what brand they are. I've had Pocket Wizards, and I had trouble out of my Pocket Wizards. Number one, they ate batteries like they were free. And I'm doing mostly product photography. So I would set up like two lights, typically with soft boxes to get good side lighting. And maybe sometimes I would light the backdrop to get a whited out backdrop, so it would be floating in white space. And like I said, I would just sync cable to one and then just set the other two to slave mode, and they just all hit at once. English is good enough. Okay, good. Yeah. Here's a little something, Neville. If you talk to the Mennonites here in the U.S., they call us the English. Truth. Here's your little trivia bit. The Mennonites teach their kids German until they're 8 years old, and they write in Dutch. Now this is the weird part. They write in Dutch, and the kids don't learn English until they're 8. And the theory is that if the kids can't speak English, they won't interact with the people outside of the Mennonite community or the Amish community. We have a big Amish community up in just north of Winchester, Tennessee. And we did a tour up there when Sierra was homeschooling, and they took us on a tour, and the tour guide gave us all these trivia bits. And that was the one that stuck with me, was that they teach their kids German until they're 8. So yeah, all the little kids spoke German. It was weird. But yeah, and they write and they use the Dutch written language, which is just odd. But then once the kids are 8, they teach them English. I don't know what a TT685 Speedlight is. If you're looking for cheap to play, Young Noah is good. That's what Ray says. I want to test out Speedlights. Yeah. Peter Nagy says he likes Cuban champagne and French cigars. Interesting. I don't know that I've ever had a French cigar. Uh-oh. Get that out of the way. I've had Cuban cigars, and they're just not that magical to me. I've had them out of the country, and I've had some here in the country, but I like Dominican cigars, and Central American cigars are good. I've had them, but I don't know that I've ever had any from Europe. Interesting. That looks like a Fanuc control. That is absolutely a Fanuc control. It sure is. This one and that one run Fanuc controls. Now Aaron's home. Nice. Aaron upgraded. Well, he added to the arsenal. Got him some new wheels today. But yeah, Young No lights are good to go. Added to the fleet. You sound like me now. I have a Chevrolet pickup truck, a Ford pickup truck, and a Dodge pickup truck. The machine shop technically has the Ford and the Chevrolet. My personal truck is the Dodge that you see in the videos, but yeah, I bought them all, so might as well be mine. But I don't drive them other ones hardly ever. I don't want to have to look at them because I know that the shop guys drive them, but they don't clean them out hardly because they're shop trucks. So it just makes me mad to go get them because there'll be trash in them and junk. When you gonna get that Ford rolling, dude? You need to get it moving. Let me see. Where are we at here? Added to the fleet. Okay, the TT685 is a Godox brand speed light. All right. Godox makes the AD200 then, if I'm right. It's equivalent to an SB900. Wow. And it's got the radio built into it. Man. And it works as a trigger. Man, that's nice. There you go. Adrian, look into that. And honestly, if you're just wanting to play with a couple of speed lights, honestly, start with a Yongnuo 560 and mess with it some. And once you hit the limits of that light, then move on. And just get you a sync cable. Seriously. Yeah, radio triggers are really nice, but a sync cable works every time, and it works. It just works. I love them. Hey Claire, how you doing? Thank you for stopping in. I'm a big believer if you're not in a real dynamic scenario where you're trying to move stuff and you're trying to set lights a long way off or something, get you a 12 or a 15 or a 30-foot sync cable. And they make a little hot shoe adapter that Nikon makes it, and it works on any camera because I've tested it. I put it on my Fuji X-T3, my Leica CL, and my Nikon Z6, and it's worked on all three of them perfectly. And it's just a little hot shoe adapter that converts the hot shoe into a sync cable port. You just plug the cable into it, plug it into your light, and it's simple. And it's uber reliable, and it's fast, and it don't take batteries. I hate using batteries. Ever since them daggum Pocket Wizards, man, them things gave me a fit with the batteries. I carried a huge Ziploc bag full of AA rechargeable batteries just to keep the Pocket Wizards going. And, well, of course, the SB700 takes, what, 4? And then you got 2 in each Pocket Wizard. And, you know, it added up in a hurry if you wanted to keep all the batteries up, shooting with a speed light remote. But, yeah, the Yongnuo will get you going. And it's fairly inexpensive. And get you a little cheap light stand and get you a shoot-through umbrella. And then use your camera bag as your ballast on your light stand. It'll be heavy enough to keep your light stand from blowing over. It works good for me. I used it to shoot senior portraits a couple of times, and it worked great. Savane says he was running and gunning with a TT685 on his camera at a wedding and had the AD200 for ceiling bounce. And what he's doing is he's pointing it straight up, and he'd fire it into the ceiling and use the ceiling as a diffuser, and it lights everything with this beautiful glow of light. And it says, and then use the 685 as the on-camera flash and the trigger for the AD200 at the same time. Dude, that's incredible. I think I've seen people do that. They'll move that AD200 around the room to get the room lit the way they want at times. Going to take time and money, yeah. Ford, fix or repair. Yeah, I remember. I still have one right out there. Peter? I'm looking at what Peter said to say he was worried about his joking. Oh. I didn't know. Seemed legit to me. The French do know how to make wine from what I hear. Yeah. I haven't done any portrait work with flash in a long time though. Like I said, when all of here as friends basically got into high school and they got into their senior year, and I did senior portraits for 2 or 3 of her friends as a family friend kind of thing. I used them then, and I really haven't used them then. Cuban and champagne. A Cuban champagne. But yeah, I've done a bunch of product photography over the years, and you'll hear people say if you want to earn money in photography, product photography is where it's at. They're right. There's people looking for good quality product photographers every day. You can set up a decent studio in a small space, typically in a garage or in the corner of a bedroom. If you're not doing big objects, of course, but small objects like this Hydro Flask, You can do amazing product photography with just a couple of lights and just some good whiteboard or black paper, you know, or you get you just get you a roll of that brown paper and run it up the wall for the seamless background. And you can do portraiture that way too. You can do single light portraits that are amazing. I mean, I've seen several photographers that all they'll use is one light for portraits, you know, to give you that, was it Rembrandt lighting, and do beautiful portraiture. With COVID, everyone wants to order online, and if you don't have good pictures, your goods won't sell. That's right. And if you haven't seen it yet, Savane's got a video that he put up, what, a few months, how long's it been since you made that video? He's doing a product video, and it's an amazing product video. I don't remember, how long ago was that? But yeah, I've done almost a year. Man, it's been a lot longer than I thought. Man, that went by quick. But dude, I've took pictures of rifles that I wanted to look like they were floating in space, standing up like this. And the only way I could was to lay them on the floor, shim them to where they were kind of level, and then get a 10-foot ladder, get up on the top of that ladder and shoot straight down. Because I didn't have all the riggings to rig it, was like fishing line or whatever, you know. That's pretty common for bigger objects, is they'll hang them from fishing line, then they'll go into Photoshop and erase the fishing line. And it's not hard to do with monofilaments. But yeah, I've done that in a pinch. You can do it that way. If you've got a fairly big object and you want to, because it's a key thing if you want the object to not look distorted, to shoot it with a telephoto lens. So you need some distance, you know. It's just basic geometry. You know, if you want it to look flat, you need to be further away as it compresses everything. And it just kind of looks more normal, where if you was to put a long straight object and hit it with a 20 millimeter, it's going to bend it. You know, it's just kind of standard photography information, but it don't occur to you till you try to put a larger object in something, in some kind of field of view like that. Huh. Like for Adrian, if he wants to get the photo of like the girl laying in the sand with her hair spread out around her head, you see those kind of photos, get a ladder, climb up on the ladder and shoot straight down. It works. Just make sure you have somebody hold the ladder. Oh yeah, almost a year ago. Man, that was quick. Now I did the video where I had one of my watches and I had it on the porch. And the reason how I got the black background, I kind of cheated. I showed it in the video, but I used a glass table. And that table it's like a deck table. It's a patio table. So the glass ain't smooth and flat. It's kind of this weird textured glass, but the light would pass through it and not reflect off of it as well. So by doing that, it gave me more of a black background, and it made it black enough that when I got into post-processing, I was able to just drag the black slider down and it just turned it all black, you know. It was pretty easy to make that change. Cigar change, maybe too many flames. It's because I'm not smoking it, I'm talking. It's almost done anyway. They say don't smoke them past the band. And I've really found that if you go much past the band, it starts getting scorched and it don't taste good. So that's apparently why they put the band where they do. Savani says, I have my 3 lights, and that's been enough for all my product photography so far. In fact, you can do it with a single light, like my video, but it's more work. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can do beautiful work. You're right, with just one light. And like you said, as long as you don't move the camera or the object, just move the light and get it from multiple angles and then put them together in post-processing. And that works, and it works great. As long as you don't move the stuff, the images stack right up. It works really well. I love a nice feathered brush eraser and just blend them in. And yeah, you can get beautiful product photos. And you proved it in your video. This has been good. But yeah, if I was getting started and I wanted to get my first light and a modifier, it'd be a shoot-through umbrella, a cheap light stand, and a speed light. And then you buy this little module that goes on your light stand that has it has a extra clamp with a hole in it for the umbrella to fit in, and then it has a cold shoe to mount the speed light on. And that way you can get the speed light and shoot it into the umbrella. Now, I've bought a bunch of these studio lights, and they'll come with reflective umbrellas. And so, it shoots up into the umbrella, and then it bounces out of it. But it seems like the shoot-throughs have a softer light, just to me. They just seem to. And now soft boxes work really, really, really well. They're just more complicated to assemble, to where the umbrella, man, just click, and your modifier's up. You stick it in the stand, tighten down the little screw, hang the light. Now, the speed light's going to shoot off axis. The center of your umbrella's here, and your speed light's going to be 7 inches above it to the head. So it's going to hit the umbrella above center. It's not going to hit it in the center. Sometimes the speed lights can gimbal down slightly, and that'll allow it to shoot more into the center of the umbrella, but it still works. It'll still disperse the light pretty good. Woody says he sold premium cigars for 30 years. Good grief. Look up Swedish Match premium cigars. You might be surprised the brands we sold. All right. Yeah, I will. Savani says, David, do you have any experience with gimbal heads? I'm doing some research and it's a jungle. No, sir. I have not used a gimbal head at all. You're talking about the kind you mount the big heavy glass on that's got the cradle style gimbal. Is that the kind I'm thinking? It pivots on the base of the tripod, and then it has an arm that comes up, and then it has that swinging J head on it that you mount the big glass on. I think Phil has one of those. I think I saw in a recent video where he had his mounted up on one of them, I think on his porch. You got me interested, Woody. Speed light doing full body shots, it might do it. I don't know. You can try. I mean, give it a shot. It may be that you need a second speed light, and just mount one low and one high and have them shoot together through 2 umbrellas. That may be the trick. I don't know. And the giant softbox would work, but the bigger the softbox gets, the more expensive they are. They get costly in a hurry. You could get 2 light stands, 2 shoot-through umbrellas, and 2 speed lights that work off of each other, most likely for less than the price of a giant softbox. They're costly. Them things are high. Woody says, I thought my 500 PF was in focus until I looked at my first week's photographs. Glad I did the adjustment. Huh, that's interesting. All of mine have been sharp. I have been very fortunate with mine, I guess, because I've run it on the D810, the Z6, and the Z50, and on all 3 of those, it's produced stellar results. The Z50, Phil told me that Z50, and so did Aaron. Aaron said it too, would be an amazing wildlife camera, and both of them were right. It is. It's a really good camera. Well, I'm probably about done with the stream. I believe I'm about to get a phone call. That crashes my software. Midnight here, good night. Woo. James Oliver says he's done a lot of product style photography with $265 LED 95 CRI adjustable intensity panels. on my table size mobile studio setup works pretty good. The only reason to get bigger lights is that you want to overpower ambient or freeze motion. Yeah. Or, yeah, you want to fight the sun. If you can control the indoor light, if you can take the sun away, then less light will work just fine. You just have to run a little more ISO to compensate. The only thing that's kind of slow with speedlights is the kind of batteries. The AA's dry quick and take almost a day to get charged. Yeah, and that was the big thing for me. That was what I liked about the AD200 Pro was it has those big battery modules in it. I haven't had to charge that one. Well, I don't use it but to do thumbnail photos, but I haven't charged it in weeks. It works. It lasts a long time. Godox makes a lithium-ion version of the same light. The 860 is the lithium-ion version, so those batteries last really good. I've had great results with them. But yeah, I appreciate you guys jumping on the stream with me. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, if y'all haven't seen Adrian's video, you go to YouTube and you look up, I think his channel is ADVR, just like he's got on his name here. I believe that's his channel name. And he done a video with a model named, I think it's Regina Felix. And his video is amazing. Look at his video skills. He done a very good job cutting together what appears to, it looks a little bit like a music video, the way he's cut it together, but it flows really well. You done a really good job on that video, dude. I was impressed. Yeah, I was really impressed with that video. Oh, they have a faster recycle time. Interesting. Teresa's trying to text me. Let's see if I can make this work without killing the stream.
What's wrong with your answer?
Let's see what happens here if I do this. There. Did the stream break down? Yep. Yeah.